Donald Trump may have just admitted that his actions on January 6th were in his personal capacity, not his official role as president. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Aronberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida Lawman, here on the MeidasTouch Network. So we all know about the Washington, D.C. election interference case before Judge Chutkan. We all know how this case was delayed because the Supreme Court put its thumb on the scale with its very broad immunity ruling, which Trump cheered. But be careful what you wish for, because now, as a result, Jack Smith is prepared to release the hounds, release all the details about Trump's involvement before, during, and after January 6th, the extent of his election interference. Trump, though, has been saying that his actions were all official conduct as president of the United States. Even though the president's not supposed to deal with elections, he was acting more as an office seeker, not an office holder. And it's even in the Constitution where the states handle the elections, even federal elections, not the federal government, not the president. And so Trump is trying to convince the court that despite all that, remember, don't believe what you see and what you hear and what you read, just believe me. Well, that's essentially Trump's argument. But he may have stepped on a rake in his most recent filing, the one that he filed in opposition to the release of the information that Jack Smith wants to get out to the public, especially before the election, where Judge Chutkan is ready to release it. Well, in his filing, in his pleading, Donald Trump did something. There's a line in there that I think we should look at that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but I do think it really undermines his entire argument that everything he did was official and therefore immune, according to the Supreme Court. Well, in the brief, it says this: the special counsel's office also sought to defend the Section 1512 charges based on their false allegations relating to responsibility for events on January 6th. They continue to do so, including in the superseding indictment, where they falsely allege that President Trump sought to leverage events at the Capitol to retain power. These false allegations do not render President Trump factually or legally responsible, let alone criminally culpable for the actions of others. Absent direct calls to imminent lawless action, which the office does not come close to alleging, bedrock First Amendment principles permit public speakers, including President Trump on January 6th, to speak their mind without fear of criminal prosecution for the unlawful acts of others. Okay, let's go back to the key part there. Absent direct calls to imminent lawless action, which the office does not come close to alleging, here's the key part, bedrock First Amendment principles permit public speakers, including President Trump on January 6th, to speak their mind without fear of criminal prosecution for the unlawful acts of others. And he cites Brandenburg versus Ohio. Okay, so Trump is saying that he is covered by the First Amendment, which allows him to speak freely, because even Jack Smith said that he did not specifically call for violence, at least not imminent lawless action. Now, that could be debated, but Trump is not being charged with incitement. But the fact that Trump is cloaking himself in the First Amendment, saying this shows that I did nothing wrong because I had the First Amendment right to speak my mind, that walks into a Jack Smith trap. So Jack Smith, in his brief to the Supreme Court in the immunity case, the one that started all this, the immunity decision that Supreme Court in a 6-3 majority or conservative opinion said that there's this new broad immunity. Well, Jack Smith filed this brief that reminds the Supreme Court and all of us that when you cloak yourself in the First Amendment, you are acknowledging that you are a private citizen acting in your unofficial capacity, because the First Amendment protects citizens, protects people against the government encroachment. It doesn't protect the government. The First Amendment, as a matter of law, protects individuals from the government. So you cannot claim that you are protected in your official government capacity by the First Amendment when the First Amendment protects you from the government. Here's what Jack Smith said. Petitioner, and that's Trump here, petitioner confirmed that he acted in a private capacity by seeking First Amendment protection for his false speech and moving to dismiss the entire indictment on that basis. And he quotes a case here, Manhattan Community Access Corp versus Halleck. The free speech clause of the First Amendment constrains governmental actors and protects private actors. Quotes Garcetti versus Sabalos. Employee speech for the government has no First Amendment protection. And Jack Smith says, the district court correctly held that petitioner's false speech in furtherance of the charged conspiracies is not constitutionally protected, but petitioner's assertion of private First Amendment rights speaks volumes about the private character of the charged offenses. So when Donald Trump then tells Judge Chutkan, it was the First Amendment that protects me, Judge Chutkan, I think, is going to say, yeah, protects you as a private citizen, not as the president of the United States. You can't invoke the First Amendment to say that you're protected from government involvement when you're now saying you are the government. You are the official actor here. If you are protected by the First Amendment against government encroachment upon your rights, well then, yes, you're a private citizen and thus not immune from your conduct. So that, to me, is just Trump's legal team walking in to a trap set by Jack Smith. And now Jack Smith, I'm sure, is very confident that Donald Trump will face the music for his actions in trying to overturn the 2020 election, especially now that Donald Trump himself has admitted that his actions were unofficial. I'm sure he'll be thrilled with his lawyers on this one, but, and I'm saying sarcastic, but in the end, if Donald Trump loses the election, and I know that all of us watching this on Midas Mighty are working hard to make sure that happens, then he's going to face that music. He's going to stand trial. That's the first trial that's going to happen. He'll have to face sentencing first in New York for the state conviction in the Stormy Daniels hush money election interference case up there. But then, in a case that the world will be watching, Trump will go on trial in Washington, D.C. It's why Trump is freaking out right now, because he knows the stakes of this election cannot be any higher for him. He knows that the only way he avoids this trial is not Supreme Court. Judge Chutkan is going to move ahead with this case for all the reasons I said already, plus others. But he realizes that the only way he can avoid consequences is to become president again and then call off the dogs, tell his lackey attorney general to drop all the charges, which that attorney general will, and then the cases in D.C. and the case in South Florida will go away. And I know you may be thinking, well, the case in South Florida has already gone away. That's a temporary setback for prosecutors. That case in my neck of the woods, South Florida and Fort Pierce, that's coming back. The 11th Circuit will, I think, almost certainly, perhaps just certainly, overturn Judge Cannon's ruling, which flies in the face of all the precedent. Then it goes to the Supreme Court, and I think even that Supreme Court is going to have to honor the precedent. And even if they don't, even if they do something dramatic and ridiculous and shocking, which I wouldn't put them past them, then Jack Smith just steps away from that case, and the Attorney General just refiles the case through the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of Florida. So that case is coming back one way or the other. So the only way that these federal cases go away is if Trump becomes president again. And then you may be wondering about the case in Georgia, Fonnie Willis's case in Fulton County. That one's been a mess. That's on appeal, and who knows what's going to happen on that case. So that's why this election is really the most important one of our lifetimes. It's for the sake of our democracy, for the sake of justice, for the sake of the rule of law. And we'll be following it here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm Dave Aronberg, aka the Florida Lawman. If you like this video, please leave a comment below and share with a friend. Also, check out our sister channel, True Crime MTN, where I talk about the hottest true crime cases out there. Cases like Garth Brooks and Diddy, talking about the Farmer Bro. Lots of true crime cases. There's never a shortage of them. So check me out over there, True Crime MTN. and I'll see you here next time.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.